Hello everybody and welcome to today's nutrition webinar with Brimbank Libraries. We have Paris J, who is an accredited practicing dietitian, who will be presenting a wonderful topic, very relevant for school holidays, our planning for future terms at school, and that topic is healthy lunches for kids. So of course, I will hand over to Paris now and she can introduce the rest of the topic. Thanks, Paris.
Thanks, Renee. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me today on the first day of school holidays. I hope everybody's surviving their first day at home, or maybe you're not, maybe you're at work, and that's great too. It seems like the school holidays have definitely come around super quickly, considering we were all just homeschooling and trying to juggle working from home and the kids at home not too long ago. So hopefully your school holidays will be nice and relaxing, not like homeschooling for a lot of people, which was very chaotic and quite challenging, I would think. So today I am doing the last webinar in a series of 3 for Brimbank Libraries, and we're going to be talking about healthy lunches for kids, and I will give you some ideas and inspiration on how to pack a nutritious lunchbox for school-aged children. So before we started, I just wanted to do an acknowledgement to country, and I wanted to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land for which I'm doing my presentation on. So they're the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and I would like to pay my respects to their elders past, present and future, and also anyone who may be watching here today. And I also wanted to extend that acknowledgement to the traditional owners of the land on which my viewers might be viewing this presentation on today as well. So this presentation will go for about 45 minutes, give or take. And we'll have some question time at the end. I'll leave about 15 minutes for question time. So make sure you think of some questions to ask me and we can have a chat closer towards the end. So a little bit of housekeeping for anyone who may not have used a webinar platform before in this online space. So there is a chat box somewhere on your screen. It depends what sort of device you're viewing me on, whether it's like a smaller phone device or a bigger laptop, but there's a chat box. There should be a chat box there, which I will ask you to use at some stage. We'll do an activity, but I'm also happy for you to put any sort of statements in there or any comments on anything that I'm talking about, and put your questions in the chat box as well, and I will either get to them as we're going through the topic, or towards the end I can get to them as well. And I suppose I just wanted to make it as casual as possible and like it would be if we were in person. So I'm happy for you to ask questions throughout and make comments and things like that, and we'll start from there and see how we go. So like Renee said, I am an accredited practicing dietitian. So for people who don't know what a dietitian does, they are experts in everything food and nutrition, and they use medical nutrition therapy to manage chronic diseases, mainly with people with illnesses like diabetes or heart disease, cancer, eating disorders, a whole range of different sort of illnesses or diseases, and they advise on the right diet to be able to have the best health outcomes for the individuals going through that. So they can work across a whole range of different settings. They can work in a clinical setting in a hospital, managing patients who are acutely ill, or they can work in a community health setting across community health centres or in community health organisations and things like that. They can work in sports dietetics, managing athletes and making sure that they're getting the correct nutrition for excellent performance. They can work in the food industry, so kind of analysing menus and diet plans for aged care homes and hospital menus and things like that. So a whole range of different industries we can work in, doing anything related to food and nutrition. So myself, I work in private practice and I work across a few different clinics in the northern and western suburbs of Melbourne. And I manage individually through individual consulting with my patients who have lots of different, a various range of different diseases and chronic illnesses. And then I also do this health promotion stuff on nutrition and food, and that includes doing nutrition education, cooking demonstrations, presentations like this, group education sessions and stuff like that. So I really enjoy the variety that being a dietitian has given me, and I'm able to do a lot of different things with my career. So if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to for you to ask me anything about that towards the end of the presentation as well. So this is an overview of what we're going to go through today. So we're going to learn how to make nutritious lunchboxes for our children. And it's important that we provide them with good nutrition throughout the day, especially at school, to make sure that they have a lot of energy to get them throughout the day. And also good nutrition is shown to be good for memory, concentration and mood, which are all things that we want our children to have in their school, and to be able to get their work done and behave well and have a good time while they're there. And nutrition plays a really big role in helping them be able to do that at school. So we'll talk about the dietary guidelines, the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating, nutrition requirements for children, we'll go through what's in a healthy lunchbox and how to kind of build that up. And then we'll look at some lunchbox ideas. And then we'll do an activity on simple food swaps. And then I'll give you my top tips. And then we'll have a look at some online resources that I've found to be extremely helpful and useful, and might give you some inspiration and be useful to you as well. So these are the dietary guidelines. They were made up by a whole range of different health professionals, and they're evidence-based, and it's just a little bit of background to what we use that underpins our recommendations for all dietitians especially. So guideline number 1 is to achieve and maintain a healthy weight, be physically active and choose amounts of nutritious food and drink to meet your energy needs. And then dietary guideline number 2 is to enjoy a wide variety of nutritious foods from these 5 food groups every day, and we'll go through the 5 food groups in the next slide. Number 3 is to limit intake of foods and drinks containing fat, added salt, added sugars and alcohol. Hopefully not alcohol today because we're talking about children, but the other 3 things are relevant to us today. And then guideline number 4 is encourage, promote and support breastfeeding. And dietary guideline number 5 is care for your food, prepare and store it safely. So that is relevant for us today as well, considering preparing lunchboxes and having to store it safely at school for such a long period of time. Okay, so this is the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating. You may or may not have seen this before. It's just a visual representation of the 5 food groups that we recommend that we have most of our nutrition out of each day. So they include things like the grains and cereals section, which is this orange section. They have food groups in there like rice, pasta, oats, other sorts of cereals and bread and things like that. That's one of the main groups that we get our carbohydrates from. So carbohydrates are really important for providing energy for the brain and for the body in children, and also it's also a good source of fiber. So fiber is great for our digestion and our gut health. And gut health, if you have good gut health by providing it with good types of dietary fiber, it's also been shown that that improves mood in some people. So it's really important to have that in our diet, and carbohydrates especially, to be able to provide the energy that the kids need throughout the day, to kind of support those other things that we were talking about before, the memory and the concentration and things like that. So the next one is vegetables. So vegetables are including all fresh vegetable varieties, as well as frozen vegetables are also included, or canned vegetables are included in that section as well. They all have similar nutrition content, and they're all, like, having a variety of them is the best for our kids, and it provides us with lots of vitamins and minerals, and also a good source of fiber. So that's again for the digestion and providing good gut bacteria to have a healthy gut, and then the vitamins and minerals for strong immunity, and also they play major roles in lots of other physiological systems in our body, like, you know, eye health and heart health and things like that. So it's really important to include veggies in our diet. Then we have the fruit. So the fruit includes all sorts of fresh fruit varieties, as well as frozen fruits and also dried fruit. And you can also include canned fruit varieties, but make sure that they're the ones in natural juices and not like a syrup with added sugar and sweetener in it. So fruit is also good for our vitamins and minerals and fiber, like our vegetables, but it also is another major source of carbohydrates, which provides us with energy for the day. So fruit's really important to keep in there. And then we have the dairy and dairy alternatives section. So that includes things like milk, cheese, yogurt, sour cream, and then dairy alternatives like soy milk, almond milk. And then the other dairy alternatives that we have would be things like almonds, tofu, and tinned tuna with the edible bones. And we say that they're dairy alternatives because they provide us with good sources of calcium as well in the diet, which is what we mainly get from our dairy product group. So that's what we're looking for in the dairy alternatives. If you are, for instance, lactose intolerant, or if you're vegan, then we need to also make sure that we're keeping the calcium in our diet, and that is of course best for providing strong bones and building up that bone density, which is particularly important for kids to be able to do that. Research has shown that your bone density can be built up until a certain age, and it's around mid-adulthood, so around 25 to 30 or something like that, and then you can't build it up any more than that, and it slowly declines as you get older if you're not keeping up with calcium in the diet. So super important for kids to have calcium and good sources of calcium for their bones and for their teeth, also for their nails and hair as well. The next section or category that we have here is our meat and meat alternatives, and they include things like lean meat, chicken, pork, red meat, seafood and fish. And then the meat alternatives are things like eggs, nuts, legumes, chickpeas, beans, like all of those lentils and pulses, and tofu, of course. So Protein, it's our major source of protein and meat alternatives, and protein is fantastic for keeping us fuller for longer. It's also very good for our muscle health and building muscle and cell repair and things like that. But fantastic sources of iron and zinc are found in the meat and meat alternative products, which is good minerals for us to have. So then we have down the bottom section is what we call the discretionary foods. So they're in the bottom right-hand corner. And those discretionary foods are just foods that have added, they're highly processed and they have added sugars, fat, and salt in there, which we don't recommend to eat all day, every day. They're okay to have as sometimes foods or occasionally, but not to be mistaken for the 5 food groups. And we can definitely get all of the nutrition that we need and everything that our bodies need for growing and, concentration and brain health and things like that from the 5 food groups without having to add those other foods in there on a daily basis. So, and I will show you how to do that in a couple of slides. So these are the serving size recommendations. Now, hopefully you will be able to see this. Maybe if you're on a smaller screen, it might be a bit difficult, but I'm happy if anybody wants any of these resources to email me and I can send you a copy of the slides. So these serving size recommendations just provide a little bit of background as to what we recommend that children are eating on a daily basis and how many serves they need to provide the best nutrition that they can get in a day. So there's a difference between gender and also age group, and there is a little bit of variance between age groups of, for example, if you're in between 4 and 8, what you would need would obviously be different to if you were in between 14 and 18 years old, with taking into consideration, growth rates and how much activity you're doing and things like that, which is how these recommendations are all put together. So we'll just quickly go through them. So the vegetables, it's recommended that you have, depending on your age and of course your gender, in between, I'm going to only talk about from 4 years upwards, so about 4.5 servings of vegetables up to 5.5 servings of vegetables, depending on your age and gender. And a serving of vegetables equates to half a cup of cooked veggies, half a medium potato, 1 cup of salad, or half a cup of the canned varieties of veggies. So if you're thinking about that in a day's worth of food and how to get in 5 serves of veggies for a child, which is sometimes difficult. Children, a lot of children I know, veggies aren't their favourite food, which is understandable, but we need to keep trying, I suppose, because they provide us with all that really good nutrition and really good vitamins and minerals that we need for our overall health and well-being. And a little bit of, so it's known that I think the last nutritional survey, the National Nutrition Survey that came out, said that only 1 in 17 children eat the recommended serves of veggies in a day. So that's something important for us as parents to try and keep boosting that amount to make sure that they're nice and healthy and getting the best nutrition possible. So I was saying 5 serves of veggies in a day. So to get that into a child's diet, I'll just give you an example. So it would look something like maybe having half a cup of baked beans on toast in the morning. That could be, especially during winter, something that kids might like to have. So that would be 1 serve of veggies. Then we could have half a cup of raw veggies and maybe dip or cream cheese or something like that for a snack. So that's another serve of veggies that we've got. So 2 so far. Then we could have something like for dinner, you could have your meat portion and then have a cup of salad and 1 potato, which is half a potato is 1 serve. So if you had 1 potato, that's 2 serves, and that gives you extra 3 serves to get to 5 serves in a day. So it's definitely doable and it can be done. It just takes a little bit of thought and preparation, I suppose, into trying to get that all in there. So next is the fruit section. So the fruit is recommended in between 1.5 serves to 2 serves in a day. So that's not really a lot compared to the veggie section. And I know that a lot of kids like eating fruit, which isn't such a bad thing, but just keep in mind that it's only recommended to have 2 serves per day, and then just to try and balance out their nutritional requirements between the other 5 food groups instead of loading them up on fruit, I suppose. And a serving size of fruit equates to 1 medium piece of fruit, so the apple or bananas there, 1 cup of a canned variety in natural juices, or 2 smaller varieties of fruit. So 2 kiwi fruits or 2 apricots is 1 serving of fruit for a day. So then we have our grain and cereal foods, and the variation between the recommendations for age and gender vary a lot. So it's quite big. It's something to keep in mind that you find your child's requirements in there and you can have a look and see how much they need. So 1 slice of bread is 1 serve, half a cup of cooked noodles or rice is 1 serve, and 2 thirds of a cup of cereal is 1 serve, or half a cup of cooked pasta is 1 serve. And then we have our meat and meat alternatives, and it's between 1.5 serves to 2.5 serves, depending on the age range. And 1 serve of meat or a meat alternative looks something like 65 grams of red meat, which is quite small. They say that it kind of looks as the palm of your hand as a guide is what you can use for the red meat. And then it goes up to 80 grams of chicken is 1 serve, or 100 grams of fish is 1 serve. And the meat alternatives include 2 large eggs or 1 cup of baked beans as well, which provides you with the same sort of protein and vitamins from what you get from a meat serving. So then the last one is the dairy and dairy alternatives, and the recommendations for that is in between it says 1.5 for girls aged 4 to 8 years, then all the way up to 3.5 serves in a day. So 1 serve of milk would be 1 cup, 2 slices of cheese is 1 serve, 3/4 cup of yogurt is 1 serve, and then 1 cup of a soy milk drink would be 1 serve. There's also the dairy alternatives that we're speaking about before, providing calcium. So that is also 100 grams of the tuna or tinned fish with bones in it. 100 grams of almonds provides you with a similar amount of calcium. And then I think it's about 120 grams of tofu provides you with the calcium that you need for a dairy alternative. So that's just a little bit of background information and knowledge, I suppose, to have. I do want you to keep in mind that those recommendations and suggestions are a gold standard, and they're based on evidence provided by health professionals, but it's the gold standard of what kids should be having to be able to get all of their nutritional requirements. And if they're not having that, that's okay as well. It's not such a bad thing, as long as we know as the adults what they should be having and try and give them the best opportunity to get that nutrition in there, then that's all we can really do. I don't want it to be like a stressful situation or a shaming exercise. It's just a little bit of knowledge for us to all know what the recommendations are, and then try our hardest to get there, I suppose. But if we don't get there, that's totally fine. Okay, so what should a healthy lunchbox include? So I have a little bit of a visual there, but the recommendations are a variety of food options from the 5 food groups, which we just spoke about, mainly whole foods, limit the amount of processed foods that you put in there, and aim for at least 1 serve from each food group. So the lunchbox that you can see there has approximately around 1/3 of what an overall intake should be for a child. So they spend 1/3 of their day at school and have 1/3 of their meals at school. So that's kind of how we get to breaking it down to have 1/3 of their requirements in their lunchbox for what we're providing them. So it can be a traditional lunch, as in, you know, a roll or a wrap or a sandwich with the fruit snack and then another snack and your water. Or you could do a grazing style lunch with just lots of little snack options, and then your child can choose to snack on whatever they want throughout the day, depending on what they like. Be sure to include 2 to 3 snacks to make sure that they have the options, and also to make sure that they're not going hungry. Some kids use a lot of energy at school and need that kind of stamina to be able to eat their snacks throughout the day, but some kids don't eat snacks at all. They might just have their main meal and want to snack when they get home, or and eat their snacks then, which is fine, whatever works for them, I suppose. So also don't forget to add water. So water is the main drink that we recommend that you put with your lunchbox. And then there's a few things to keep in mind. So storage is one of them. So what type of lunchbox you're actually going to use, whether the things you want to put in them are properly stored. For example, if you're having watermelon in the lunchbox and it's like a bento style lunchbox and it doesn't have proper seal on the top, and the watermelon leaks into the bread and makes it soggy, and then, you know, your child doesn't want to eat soggy bread. So just keeping in mind, if you're putting things like that in the lunchbox, to maybe have them in a separate container, or think about how they're going to store overnight if you make your lunches the night before and things like that. Food safety is a big one. So just making sure that you're aware of the highly perishable foods that are known to cause food poisoning. So if you're sending your kids to school with rice or noodles, pasta and things like that, if they're not stored properly, it's very likely that there's a high chance that they can contract bacteria, which can cause food poisoning very quickly. So making sure that you're sending the lunchboxes with cooler packs, and also maybe in with ice boxes in the actual like cooler SD type situation on a regular basis, especially when they have those perishable foods in there that don't keep for long. We have to make sure that we store them safely. School policies are another thing to keep in mind. So every school's different. Some schools have policies about the main allergens and they're absolutely banned, but some schools have a little bit more relaxed policies. So if you don't have a child in your room with an allergy, then you can you're allowed to have those sorts of allergen foods in there with nuts and eggs, and just make sure you wash your hands and things like that. So just being aware of that sort of stuff before you pack the lunchbox is good practice. And also packaging. Some schools have like nude food days, or actually nude food policies, where they try and send the kids to school with as limited packaging as possible to reduce the amount of waste and things like that. And then, of course, the most important one is the child's likes and dislikes. So to consider that in a lunchbox is extremely important, and I would suggest that that would be one of the main things that I consider when I'm packing a lunchbox. You want your child to have a good food experience at school and a positive food experience, and it's really not the time to start experimenting with new foods or foods that you think that they might not eat. So if you're sending them to school with their safe foods that you know that they're going to eat, you know for sure that you're going to be able to provide the right nutrition for them to have their energy throughout the day, and then also making sure that they're having good experiences, and then using those experimental times to include any sort of new foods or new food experiences at home when they're supported and they feel safe at the dinner table and things like that. So I would suggest that you could even you plan with your child to what to put in the lunchbox, and they can have some ownership of that too, and then that will maybe give them some accountability to making sure that they eat everything because they've chosen it and they're proud of what they've put in there, and excited to get to lunchtime or snack time to eat whatever they've chosen. So these are just some examples of snack choices that you can put in your lunchbox. So these are from the 5 food groups, and they're all mostly whole foods. So vegetables is of course a fantastic one to always include in the lunchbox. They're very easy to chop up and have ready to go and prepare to put in the kids' lunchbox, and they also keep really well as well. Fruit is of course always a good one to have in the lunchbox, and fresh fruit as well, you know, quick and easy to just pick up and throw in there. And then I have other sort of vegetable options, which are in this top corner. I don't know if you can see, my head's in the way, but that's meant to be popcorn. So you can make your own popcorn and pop your own popcorn. It's actually quite simple and cheap, and that provides good fiber source and a veggie as well. And then we've got some hummus dip at the bottom there, which is a good, really quick and easy to make. If you have a blender, it is literally just chickpeas, a little bit of tahini or sesame seeds, a little bit of olive oil, and then some different herbs and spices depending on what the tastes are, and salt and pepper, and hummus is made. So it's something that you can either buy from the store or really quick and easy to make at home. You can do that with lots of different veggies and make different veggie dips if that's something that your child would eat, and have and serve that with either crackers or veggie sticks, and that's another good way to get veggies in there. So you can make tzatziki or capsicum dip or avocado dip. There's all different choices there. So another suggestion for snack choices would be pancakes. So some people might think, what, pancakes? But if you make them how traditionally, it is just 1 part flour to 1 part milk, and you put 1 egg in there, and you beat that all up and fry it in the fry pan, and there your pancakes ready. And if you wanted, so it doesn't have to have any sugar in there, you can do natural sweeteners by serving it with fruit, maybe a little bit of honey or something like that. But you could sweeten it with putting banana in the actual mixture, like using one of your ripe bananas and putting that in the mixture, and have pancakes as a good source of grain. That would be a grain item that you put in there for a snack. Some other suggestions are the savory scrolls on the side. So that's another thing that's a really simple and easy recipe. It only has a few ingredients. So to make like dough, or the base dough is just flour, oil, yeast, water, and a little bit of salt. And you can put whatever toppings you want on there. You can make Vegemite and cheese scrolls, or you can make savoury scrolls with some veggies in there and some cheese, or like pizza style scrolls. So there's a few different options there for snacks. And yes, I suppose some of them do take a little bit of planning and time to prepare, but it usually wouldn't take more than a couple of hours on an afternoon on your Sunday to be able to plan for the week and prepare some of these more homemade snacks. With your children, of course, if they like cooking, then that's something that can be included. So then we have our lunch ideas, and I've just got a whole range of different photos up here. So we've got everything from the traditional sandwich and roll with our salad foods to crackers and rice crackers. And then we've got wraps, toasted sandwiches, and then a little bit more creative with having things like rice paper rolls, lots of veggies in there, a protein source and a grain, which is how we kind of formulate our lunch foods to make sure that we've got a lot of our, just to make sure that it's, you know, nutritionally balanced. There's a salad down there with some sort of leftover meat, a yogurt dressing it looks like, and then lots of veggie options. Some special fried rice with lots of veggies in there, which is really good to for kids to take to school. Just remember to store it properly with an ice pack underneath it. They can have things like in the middle, there's pizza and stir-fry noodles. So they would be like leftover homemade pizzas. You could do that on pita bread. The kids can eat that cold the next day if that was something that they liked. And then we've got zucchini fritters up there. Falafels and flatbread is a really good way for kids to get some lentils and pulses into their diet, and you just make a yummy sauce to go with it, and that's usually a hit. And then on the bottom I've got some quiches, and that's of course if your school is not egg free. So if it's an egg free school, then you wouldn't be able to take those with you, but if it's not, quiches and mini quiches like that are a fantastic way to put some vegetables in there and for the kids to enjoy that as a nice little snack or a lunch food as well. And then hydration. So of course we've got water as our main hydration, and then a little bit of alternative options. So water with fruit in it for a little bit of flavor. I've got some herbal tea in the middle, and then we've got fruit juice and milk, which I wouldn't recommend to send every single day, only occasionally, and the fruit juice to be like freshly squeezed or a fresh variety of fruit juice, not a reconstituted one from the not dairy, like the not cold aisle. They usually have a lot of added sugar and things like that, and they also don't have the fiber that a fresh piece of fruit would provide us, but they are good to have sometimes as a treat. And then milk is a good drink for kids to have to get their good calcium and protein through. Okay, so this is a little activity that I wanted to do with you all. So you're going to need to jump in the chat section up the top and give me some answers to what I'm about to ask you. So we're looking at simple healthy food swaps, and I just chose 5 of the most common things that I see in people's lunchboxes, and I thought that we could go through some of the alternative healthier choices that we might be able to put in the kids' lunchboxes instead of having these packet foods that are definitely convenient. Of course they are, and they're sometimes food, so they can go in the lunchbox sometimes, but we'll try and look at alternatives to put in the lunchbox instead of having these sorts of foods. So we'll start with the first one, which is it's a yogurt. but it's meant to be like any sort of dessert sort of tub that has high sugar stuff in there. Yeah, so Greek yogurt is an alternative, that's right. So does anyone else have any sort of alternatives that they might use instead of giving a packet yogurt mix with chocolate in it? So Greek yogurt's a fantastic one, and you can add your own sweeteners to it by adding fruit, or you could even put, yeah, with granola. Yeah, that's right. So you can put nuts and seeds in there, or the granola with the oats and the dried fruits and things like that to make it a little bit sweeter. So that's a fantastic alternative to having that sort of dessert style tub in there. So I think that's what I actually chose. So that's right. That's what I chose as well to have as an alternative. So the next one is like the snack type snacks with the cheese and the biscuit. What would be an alternative that you would suggest to have? Yes, hummus and carrot and celery sticks. Yep. So some sort of dip with veggie sticks there. Yes, cheddar cheese with a greeny cracker. Yeah, fantastic. So some sort of rice cracker or a seeded cracker with just a less processed cheese would be a fantastic alternative. Wholemeal rice crackers with avocado dip. Yep, fantastic. All very good suggestions. Thank you. So that's, I did veggie sticks as well with some sort of dip in there that we can quickly make at home. And that's a good way to get veggies as well into our kids' lunchboxes. So the next one is a fruit roll-up or a fruit leather or whatever you want to call it. There's a few different varieties around these days. Yes, fresh fruit, of course, would be the alternative to having a fruit leather that is highly processed. Absolutely. Does anyone else have any suggestions instead of having fruit roll-up? Yes, dried fruit. So even, you know, those trail mixes with the dried fruit and then some seeds and things like that. If your school's a nut-free school, you can still give your child, you know, like coconut and oats and some seeds and things like that to put in with their dried fruit to make it a little bit more exciting. So that's, I did fresh fruit as well. And then we have the chips. So what would be an alternative to a packet of chips that we could have? Popcorn, yep. Yeah, fantastic. I think that's actually what I chose as well. So popcorn is one of the simplest things that you can buy. It is actually so cheap to buy in its kernel form, and then you add it to a hot pot with oil, and it takes not very long to cook, and you store it in a container, and your child can have that in their lunchboxes during the week. And you can add a little bit of salt to it, or you can make a sweeter variety of popcorn. Some people add a little bit of icing sugar, and that's okay. It's, you know, still made from home, and you know what ingredients are going in there, and you're also not paying for the packaging of what you pay for with some of these packaged foods. So that's something to keep in mind when you're choosing. And then the last one is muesli bars. So sometimes some of the muesli bars aren't too bad, but sometimes they do have a lot of ingredients in them that are not, not very good for us. So yeah, homemade muffins, blueberry and banana with no sugar, of course. Yeah, so that's a good alternative. And you can add sugar to your own cooking, and I can guarantee you that it would probably be half the amount of sugar in your home baking that it would be in some of these packaged products. So yeah, so nuts and seeds, fantastic alternative. I think I just did homemade muesli bars. So homemade muesli bars are actually quite simple to make. There are some no-bake recipes, but there are also some baking recipes, and they just knowing what goes in your food, and I suppose cooking with the kids, and the kids can choose what kind of things they want to put in there, whether it's dried fruit or chopped chips or honey or coconut. Yeah, it's good for them to get involved in kind of making those choices and being proud of what they want to put in their lunch boxes. So they're all good ideas. Thank you, everybody, for your input with that. That was fantastic ideas and suggestions for our alternatives to some of these packet foods. So thank you for participating. I just had this little section up the top is just a little card that tells you a quick way to read labels. So I don't know if it's helpful if you want to screenshot that, and or you can email me and I can send that along to you at a later date if you can't screenshot. But it's just a good guide on what to look for when you're choosing your products, the packet products, if you're having them sometimes, and then what kind of reference ranges you're looking for with those added sugars, added fat, sodium, and things like that. So it tells you what's best and gives you a little bit of a guide as to how to choose the best product for yourself. So we're nearly at the end. This is just a summary of what we spoke about today and what my top tips are. So make it colourful is number one top tip, making sure that when you look at your lunchbox that it's got lots of veggies in there, fruit and different colours, and mainly whole food. Be prepared, so talking a little bit about maybe making some time on a Sunday or a Monday or whatever suits you to prepare the lunches for the week with the child or your children, and then taking some time to actually cook those foods and things like that will be helpful, I'm sure, when you're trying to change some of those habits and get some really good lunch boxes going with your kids. Plan with your child, of course. So, you know, kids love being involved in things, and I'm sure that once you get them involved in choosing what sort of foods they want in their lunchbox, then they'll be more likely to eat them and feel proud about what they've chosen and love being involved. Always include safe foods. So like I was saying earlier, just making sure that you include those safe foods to make sure that they're getting that nutrition throughout the day. And if you want to include other foods or experiment with foods to widen your child's variety of what they're eating, then the time and the place for that is most likely at home rather than at school, and it'll just reduce that sort of waste, any sort of waste from them not eating it, but also making sure that they're getting the right nutrition throughout the day to get through their school day with the foods that they like to eat in there. Think about the environment. So think about packaging, think about what you want to send to school and the waste that it may cause. Talking about making alternatives to those healthy options and making food at home. It will be providing less sort of packet and less waste most likely. So that's something to consider. Read the food labels. So if you are going to buy packet foods and convenient food, making sure that you read the food labels, and then you can choose the best products for yourself, or you can maybe think you could make it better and more nutritious if you made it at home. So that's totally up to you. And consider food safety. Always, always consider food safety to make sure that we're not getting food poisoning and we're storing our food correctly and safely. So this is just a slide, another one that you might want to snapshot because I don't have a lot of time left. I might take you to one of the resources to be able to show you, but there's a couple at the top which just have some fantastic recipes for inspiration if you needed some inspiration around recipes for different ideas on what to put in the lunchbox. And then we've got the Cancer Council have a healthy lunchbox website, which is fantastic for, I'll see if I can quickly take you there. Can you just tell me in the chat if you can still see my screen? I've gone to a different, out of the presentation and onto a website, and I'm just make sure that you can still see it. Yep, fantastic. Great. So this is the Cancer Council one, and this might be a good one to get the kids involved in. It's kind of like an interactive lunchbox builder, and you can build your own lunchbox, and it kind of has lots of different recipes and things like that that you can choose from all the different food groups that we were talking about, and then the kids can put it in their lunchbox and plan for the week. So that's the lunchbox builder. And then there's different recipes up here, but the inspiration and ideas, so they've got different sandwich fillings and healthy snacks, but these are the lunchbox examples that hopefully will come up, and they give you a really good visual on different lunchbox ideas and what lunchbox should look like. So there's a lot, and they also do categorize it in those 5 food groups as well, which is really easy and simple for everyone to see. And then the highlighted ones, like here, the apple and date bliss ball, and then it gives you great recipes as well on this website. So you can go through there, and it just gives you that visual kind of inspiration that you might be looking for to see what other things that you can put in your child's lunchbox. And they've got quite a lot of choices. So that's just a great, fabulous resource that I love to go and look at. And then we also have, for the Better Health channel, has the Lunchbox Meal Planner. And if you go down on this one, here, I've got a school lunch menu planner, and it actually goes through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and goes through the snack, lunch, afternoon snack, and gives you some different options there. So that is something worth having a look at. And this one is just from Nutrition Australia. So they have a lot of good resources to be able, like for parents, but also for kids. So it's got packing a school lunchbox, become a waste warrior, involve the kids, what's the lunch, mix and match lunchboxes, a lunchbox builder, which takes you to the Cancer Council's website, which we just went to, how to create the ultimate sandwich. So lots of different, lots of things there. So I'll just give you one more chance. You can definitely screenshot this, or again, like I said, you can email me at the end, and I'm happy to send you all of this information. So that is all. That's it from me. There are my contact details on the side if you need to contact me for anything. And just a reminder that there is on the web page that you booked on, you're able to download a nutrition resource, which I think is the Nutrition Australia lunchbox resource, and that just kind of goes over the tips that I've been talking about. And yeah, so don't forget to do that. And thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. I hope you learned something new and got some inspiration to pack your kids' lunchboxes full of nutritious foods and whole foods. So we can do questions now. We've only got 5 minutes. Okay, so do you have any recommendations if your child is gluten-free and dairy-free? So I suppose gluten-free just means you can still have those sort of grain foods in the diet or as choices, but you need to use those alternative flours. And I think that they definitely have a lot of things in the supermarket these days if you're not an avid cooker. Otherwise, you would have to cook your own sort of versions of those grain foods. But you can definitely have things like popcorn as an alternative, or you can make your own sort of muffins with the alternative flours that you can use for gluten-free. So they've got wonderful products nowadays to be able to do that. Dairy-free is a little bit more difficult, I suppose, talking about how, like nut policies at schools and things like that. So trying to get dairy-free products into the lunch boxes might be a little bit more difficult, but you just have to be creative about it. So you can have things like veggie dips and make it dairy-free and gluten-free. You can have popcorn as a snack that's dairy-free, gluten-free, lots of different veggie sticks. And there is alternative, you know, there's coconut yogurts and things like that that are alternatives to cow's milk yogurt. And then, yeah, cooking with those sort of alternative products. But yeah, hopefully that's helpful. I don't have so the other question that I can see is, how would you encourage a child who only likes white food to try new things? So I would probably say one of the mantras that I live by is that the adult provides and the child decides. So that's like a well-known sort of thing in the dietitian industry, especially with kids. So we provide our children with all of the food options, and then they decide how best to nourish themselves depending on their age, of course. Some children need more encouragement, but as long as you're providing all the foods, then it is sometimes just about play and touch and recognition and having them become familiar with it before they even decide to try it. I suppose another suggestion would be to suggest to them calmly and kindly, just try it. You know, we don't expect you to eat the whole meal or have, you know, a whole mouthful of whatever the food is that you're offering, but just try it. It's not going to hurt you. And then if they don't like it, then that's all good and well, but how can they say that they don't like it if they haven't tried it? So that's another sort of tactic to use. But yeah, I think that if you're providing your child with all the different options that they can have, then it's up to them what they eat and what they choose to eat from those options, I would say. Yeah, so I don't know if that's not very helpful. There's no magic wand to kind of make children like different types of foods, and sometimes you'll just find that as they get older, they get less fussy and more adventurous, and will kind of try as they get older. Do we have any other questions? Can you please have your email address? Thanks. So my email address is here on this last slide. Hopefully you've seen it here. If you still need me to type it, I'm happy to do that. But if you can see it here at the bottom of the slide, that's where you can email me at, and I'm happy to send you some of these resources and things that we've gone through today, even the slides. I'm happy to send you, that's fine. And I think that's all the questions so far. Renee, what do you think? Have I missed any?
I think you've covered pretty much everything. So thank you so much for this wonderful webinar, Paris. I'm sure everybody who has attended has got something out of it, and I definitely certainly have too. So I'll just reiterate that Paris is a private practice dietitian, and if you do have further questions, or perhaps you'd like to have a consultation with her, her website and her email address are there. If you don't get it down, we at the library are happy to provide you with that information too. So just get in contact with your local library at any stage and we can provide you with that information.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being a part of this, everybody. I hope you really enjoyed it. And again, thank you so much, Paris.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Have a lovely day.
All right. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.